How did this happen? How is this possible? How did we get here? Those are just some of the questions that I heard and asked myself when Donald Trump won the presidential election. Well, I'm going to offer you 10 reasons why that might answer that question in this video if you're still one of the many people scratching their heads. Welcome to another episode of Holistic Lifestyle Coaching with Ryan David. I'm Ryan David. What I do on this channel, among other things, is offer coaching strategies, suggestions, advice, introduce concepts that will help empower you in your everyday life. But today I want to offer some insights and some information that may help you with an understanding of today's topic. All jokes aside, there are a lot of people who honestly don't know how or why President Trump won the election. Well, this is not a video about politics. It's about offering facts and truth and actively shifting perspectives, opening your mind, and being informed about possible explanations for something that millions of people, including myself, had a difficult time understanding, let alone processing. In terms of voting, the first thing you have to understand and keep in mind is that the majority of people, if not everyone, votes for who they think will best serve their personal interests, not the country overall. Now, that may not be an earth-shattering, mind-bending, revolutionary statement, but it's important to consider when asking the question, how could they, as far as how someone else can vote for who they vote for? And the reason you don't know how they could is because you're focused on your reasons why you wouldn't, aka your personal interests and not theirs. Just something to keep in mind as I hit on this specific list about the personal interests of others that may differ from yours. I arranged this list to go from the most ridiculous reasons, in my opinion, to the most troublesome, with some legitimate, rational reasons in between. The first reason why you may have voted for Trump: to make America great again. Now, this person is simply immature, and they drank the Kool-Aid because the slogan is catchy and sounds good, regardless of the substance behind it, or lack thereof, about what it really means. If that slogan and catchphrase was the sole reason you supported Trump and cast your vote for him with no other reasoning behind your decision, then you fall into that category. But your vote counted. Now that we got that one out of the way, let's look at some of the reasons why informed, intelligent, thoughtful citizens may have actually voted Republican in this election, and where most of the critical swing votes came from. Reason number 2, immigration and or terrorism. And I put these together because if you made a decision based on what the candidates were proposing in those two areas, you made a decision to vote for the person who you felt proposed the best possible plan or strategy or information that you were most confident with that would execute your critical concerns in one and or the other area. So if you believe what Trump was saying, regardless of what he was saying, was actually what would get the job done in terms of immigration and or terrorism, that's where you cast your vote. Period, point blank. And your vote counts. Number 3, the economy, jobs, taxes, government spending, entitlement programs, any financial concerns you have in terms of the government and government spending, or increasing growth of the economy and or the number of jobs. Now again, if this is a specific concern for you and all you're concerned about is your money or money in general, fiscal spending, that sort of thing, you're going to look at the two individuals and you're going to decide, based on what they put forward, who you think is going to put your pocketbook or the country's pocketbook in the best position possible. Now, what really struck me in this category was when I saw a documentary where a news crew went up into the hills of West Virginia, I believe it was, to one of the poorest, if not the poorest, counties or towns in the country. And I think it was an old coal mining town. And it was a ghost town with people living in shacks. It was sad. But these folks, they would talk to them and they would ask them, why did you vote for Trump? Who did you vote for? And they voted for Trump. Why did you vote for Trump? And their answer was, because I don't know what else to do. I voted for Obama, a few of them said, twice, hoping for change, looking for my life to be affected, my money to be affected, my pocketbook, so on and so forth, to be affected, and it wasn't. And I feel like I don't have anything else to lose. Think about it. If that's a situation that you're in, and this businessman comes along, a billionaire, CEO, job-minded guy, put forth a plan or a speech or speeches about getting you your job back based on his experience in business, if that's your number one concern or priority, that's where you're going to cast your vote. So if the economy or jobs and fiscal responsibility or fiscal spending was your main concern, you voted for Trump and your vote counted. Number 4, Republican affiliation and or loyalty. If you identify as a Republican and you support the Republican Party at all costs, meaning everybody in the Republican Party, not just one nominee, then you voted Republican and you voted for Trump. I give the analogy of, if you're a Dolphins fan, chances are you don't like Bill Belichick at all. Now that I think about it, if you're a fan of any football team except for the Patriots, you probably don't like Bill Belichick. So go ahead and use your team. You don't like Bill Belichick, but if your team hires Bill Belichick, are you going to disown your whole team and abandon your whole team and not support your whole team because they hired a coach you didn't like? No, you'll welcome that coach in. You might not even still like the coach, but you're going to support the team. And I use that analogy because I think that's a good example of kind of the situation that a lot of Republicans found themselves in. They really had no choice but to vote for the person who was going to represent and stand for and support the ideals, the values, the people in their party that pushed what they wanted and the people that they wanted to be there in the first place. So if you were a Republican, you voted for Trump, even if you felt like you didn't have a choice, and your vote counted. Number 5, religion, specifically Christianity. If you are a devout Christian and your faith is what guides your decisions and your beliefs, as strong as they are, and religious beliefs can be very strong, and Christianity is what dictates the decisions you make in your life based on your moral values or your religious beliefs and what the Bible says you should do or not do, or what's right or what's wrong, then you voted for Trump. Because Trump, in comparison to Clinton, stood for or said he would support more of the ideals, values, or principles that were in line with your religious belief. So again, regardless of how you felt about Trump personally, at the end of the day, if he's going to put forth laws and uphold the Constitution in the way that you think it should be and is in line with your religious beliefs, personally, you're going to vote for Trump. Now, what's interesting here, and I could probably do a whole nother video when it comes to religion, is inside of a religion, you can still have completely different views about things like what's right and what's wrong, so to speak. I know some people who have the same religion, same faith, same beliefs, worship the same God, go to the same church, and voted for 2 different candidates. Either way, if your religious faith is what guided you and you turn to the Bible to make your decision as far as who you should vote for because of the decisions they're going to make and what decisions they'll make and how they'll affect you and your life and your religion and your beliefs, so on and so forth, then you voted for Trump and your vote counted. Now, agree or disagree, those 4 decisions make logical sense when you consider and understand the values, reasons, or personal beliefs that are driving them for people. Now for some ignorant, irrational, and harmfully biased reasons people may have cast their vote. Number 6, anti-politics. This may sound good in theory, but again, it's kind of a case of you drank the Kool-Aid and played yourself. And that's not just my opinion. You can take a look at some of the decisions that Trump has already made and who he surrounded himself with and picked for his cabinet even before day one. Strong ties to Washington. Maybe you felt the Democratic nominee was just more of the same or would continue the status quo that you didn't really agree with or were tired of or wanted some change from. So you went with the guy who had no political background or experience, hoping that he would drain the swamp, whatever that means specifically, and how exactly the drainage would get done, I'm not sure. If you did that, your vote counted. But the reality is the machine of government is bigger and more powerful than any one man or woman. So you kind of played yourself already if you were hoping for that. But let's revisit that in 4 years to see if Washington and politics have actually changed. Number 7, you're sexist. This one gets dismissed often, but it became an absolute reality for me when I had a real honest conversation with, yes, a good buddy of mine, and he said to me, you know, I just don't know if a woman can handle the stress and the pressure of running the world. I appreciated his honesty, and he was being dead serious. To be honest with you though, it didn't really surprise me when I thought about it. If people hold the paradigm in their head that men should be in charge, and this can stem from generations here now, if that's the paradigm in which you see power, that a man should be in power, he's the head of the household, so to speak, if that's the way you see and the way you frame things, it would make sense for your gut to kind of veer away from the woman and vote for the man, especially if you're not considering some of the other things, many of the other things there are to consider, or some of the things that I mentioned on this list. But he was honest with me and I appreciate his honesty. And I don't think by any means he's alone. I think that that is the case for a lot of people, men and women actually, this paradigm and way of understanding power, who should or shouldn't be in control. I think that that is prevalent in reality for a lot of people, whether they realize it consciously or not. He just became conscious of it after I talked to him for a while and kept asking questions and getting him to think about the reasons why he was voting for Trump, which he wasn't really sure. He just knew he wanted to vote for Trump. And it came out that that was one of the driving forces he might not even have been consciously aware of, but he was after our conversation. I think this was a driving force for a lot of people, whether they knew about it or not. But I think the reality is sexism that is ingrained in someone's way of thinking or interacting or believing, those kind of things, I think that it needed to be considered and might have been a force that was really not considered at times or dismissed. Either way, if you voted because you're sexist, your vote counted. Number 8, anti-Hillary Clinton. Now, without saying too much, if your reason for voting for Trump was strictly because you didn't want to vote for Hillary Clinton, that's a very narrow-minded, limited way of thinking or reasoning or logic. There are so many other things to consider besides the person you like or dislike. That being said, maybe one of the reasons you didn't like Hillary Clinton was because you thought that she was part of the establishment. Maybe one of the reasons you didn't like Hillary Clinton is because she's a woman. Maybe one of the reasons you didn't like Hillary Clinton were for personal reasons. Regardless, if you added up all the things you didn't like about Hillary Clinton and those were just too much to cast your vote for her, then you probably turned to Trump and said, I'm going to vote for him instead. And if you had enough that you didn't like about Hillary Clinton and you had absolutely decided not to vote for her, then when it came time to voting for Trump, even if there were reasons why you didn't want to vote for him, cognitive dissonance kicked in and you had to convince yourself that he was the lesser of two evils. I just think that that's a limited way of thinking because you write off so many things that are potentially positive that that individual person that might have flaws can bring to the office of President of the United States and contribute to the country. That part is my personal opinion. But back to these points, number 8, anti-Hillary Clinton could absolutely have been a reason, the only reason why somebody decided I'm going to vote for Trump. And if they did, their vote counted. Number 9, you're racist. I don't know how much I need to say about this one except for the fact that, again, just like being sexist, this is absolutely a driving force that needs to be considered. Not that this drove everyone who voted for Trump to vote for Trump, but if you dismiss the idea or the notion or the fact that there is a pocket of America that is racist, and that they had a white man that they identified with, whether he's a racist or not, as a racist in any way, shape, or form, that's going to be their guy. They're going to vote for him, regardless of any other flaws or potential downside that he brings to the table, period, point blank. So if he rallied the racists, whatever their numbers are, and they voted, their vote counted. Now, I was on the fence with number 10, but I decided to throw it in there because it may have been the driving force or factor in some way, shape, or form for some individuals, and that is patriotism. Because again, the definition of patriotism can be discussed relative to the person that's patriotic and what it means to them. Now, any combination of these reasons is possible, and you may or may not have been consciously aware of any of them at all, but all it takes is one of these reasons for you to have cast your vote. And this isn't an exhaustive list, but I think it covers enough voters to help explain the numbers and how and why they added up in President Trump's favor. But by all means, my challenge to you, if you think there's a reason that's relevant that wasn't covered in this list, let me know by sharing it in the comments below. Just to recap and clarify, I'm not saying any of this or sharing any of this to change how you feel or think about President Trump as the man, just in an attempt to explain how and why this country chose the results they did and why the numbers were what they were. Either way, let's all continue to try and learn what we can from what this whole process and experience taught us, and try to be a little more open to what others are saying in the future and what they're thinking and they're feeling, regardless of how ridiculous or extreme or silly it might seem to us at first. At the end of the day, you never know what or how someone else sees things or feels about them until you allow them to speak and you allow yourself to genuinely listen. I hope you found this video informative, if not at least thought-provoking. If so, give it a thumbs up before you leave and stay tuned to my channel by subscribing. I'll see you soon. Until the next episode, take care. All right, mic check. Level's good. I like how we're looking right now. I like the whiteness. Ooh, I didn't mean that. Poor choice of words when we're talking about Trump. I like the white balance. I like the lighting. That's what I meant. Black's my favorite color, just for the record. Here we go. It's gonna be a doozy. Peace, love, and happiness. Take 75. Let's take a look at why some of the reasons why informed. Why is there a double Y? When Donald Donald Trump, he's a jackass, not an elephant. That was wrong. That was judgmental. I shouldn't call names. That was wrong. That was wrong. I'm gonna give you 9 reasons why. It's 10, dumbass. People gonna take me all out of context. It is what it is, fam. The definition of patriotism, can you say patriotism? broski? Patriotism. But did y'all see the mouse move halfway through the video? Is what it is, fam. Subscribe!